Hello and welcome to episode 147 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet and my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is June 27th, 2022. Today I'm dressed completely in cotton and this kind of shawl that I'm wearing it's sort of like a triangular shawl at the moment, but it's basically a big granny square that I crocheted out of all the colors of Catania yarn that I had at that time. So I used one color per round. So every round I changed the color and I tried to use all the colors that I had. And then for the edging, I chose four shades of glitter yarn. So I have more of the glitter cotton yarn, but I just wanted to use those three to have a nice edging. And so it's like a sampler, and I sewed a few buttons on so I can fold it in half and button it up, and I can wear it a bit like a short jacket. I did that the other time I wore it on the video, but this time I wanted to show it as a shawl. And instead of wearing it like a triangular shawl, I can also just put it around like this. I'll do that in a minute once I've showed the top I'm wearing. So the top I'm wearing is the same yarn. It's 2 strands of the glitter cotton yarn by Schachenmeier. So I used 1 strand of white and 1 strand of light gray. I think they're both in here as well. Yeah. So it's the light gray and the white. No, those two of the glitter yarn. I held them double. And then I crocheted 2 squares. Those were the motif or the pattern is from, I think it's Rustic Modern Crochet by Yumiko Alexander. And I made the piece a bit bigger than it is in the pattern so that it fits me. And I just crocheted two pieces, and then I crocheted them together at the sides, and I crocheted them together on the shoulder. And that's it. No finishing, no edging around anywhere. So I just did the 2 pieces and crocheted them together when I did the last round of the second piece. And that's it. And I really like it. With the white and grey, it's really neutral. I can wear it over any of my t-shirts or tops or dresses. So it's very versatile and I really like it. So yeah, I found out I can just, if I hold it straight instead of fold it as a triangle, it sits quite nicely and it shows the colors. So yeah, that's the way I'm wearing it today. So much for what I'm wearing. Then on to my finished objects. I have one proper finished object and a sort of finished object. So the proper finished object, and we're staying in the cotton department, is this little, like, I never know what to call it, but I'm going to put it over the stove top that I have in my kitchen. It's just this little thing where I can basically put 2 pots. And to keep that safe while I'm not using it and to make it a bit prettier, I crocheted those 15 squares out of those beautiful blue and white colors. And as you can see, I sewed them all together and I crocheted an edging around. And this thing, it's a bit too big. So to make sure it doesn't slide off, I crochet decreases into this edging so it sort of folds in, and then I can put it on, and this can sort of go round the edges, and then I can make sure it stays on. Oh, by the way, that's what the pattern looks like from the inside. So from the inside, it's basically just stripes. And then with all the, what do you call those stitches? Where you go below and you crochet into the stitch 3 rounds below. You get this beautiful pattern, but on the back of the squares, they just look like this. yes, I'm really, really happy that this is finally finished, and I can't wait to put it in my kitchen, and I will be happy every time I come into the kitchen I see this. So I'm really happy about that. So that's a proper finished object, because this is something I've been working on for quite some time. But the other finished object, it's only finished because I sort of put the pattern, I created the project on Ravelry, and then I put it straight on finished because I'm not working on it anymore. I might add some more, but what I'm talking about is those little, do you say doilies? These little thingies that you put under glasses or cups or mugs. So tiny placemats. Maybe this could be called a placemat. I don't know. But I knit and crocheted several of these. I realized with Ravelry you can either put crochet on it. You can't say I'm doing both. So I put crochet because I probably crocheted more than I knit. But the reason I made these is that I was asked to do several workshops for a company, and they want like very short workshops, and they want the people there to make these little thingies. And so for the beginner knitters, I made these really simple garter stitch ones. And for beginner crocheters, I did a very simple granny square because I think this is one of the easiest things to teach. And then I did this one, which is a basic granny square in the middle, but then I improvised 4 different edgings for those people who are not absolute beginners, but want to add a little extra to their granny square. They can pick one of those edgings to finish their squares off. And then when I crocheted this, that gave me the idea to do a granny square that's a bit more lacy. So this is the normal round, and then for every other round I sort of, instead of doing 3 double crochets, I did 1 double crochet, a chain and another double crochet, so it's a bit airier, a bit more open, a bit lighter. So I did these in preparation for the workshops. I will probably, or I might knit or crochet more during the workshops, then I'll just add them to the project page. But yeah, I'm not actively working on them anymore, so I thought I'll say the project is finished. And I also crocheted this one, and I'm pretty sure you'll recognize the pattern, but I thought I'm not going to carry this along to the workshops because this will live in my kitchen now. But I also wanted to see what the pattern looks like in different colors. So I chose a completely different color palette, and I wanted to see what that looks like. And I really like the effect. I mean, it's quite different, but you can see it's the same pattern. And as this is a free pattern on Ravelry, I thought if people show up who already know how to crochet really well, I can tell them about this pattern, and I can maybe help them read the pattern. Maybe if they don't speak English or read English, I can help them along, and some of them can make one of these. Yeah, so a lot of squares, but that's all the finished objects for today. Then on to works in progress, and then I'll go away from the cotton for a while, start with my socks, do the sock yarn projects, but there'll be more cotton to come. I have been knitting on my unbearably adorable socks, and as you can see, I finished the color work bit, the stacked stitches bit. And I started the ribbing. So all I have to do is finish the ribbing. The pattern calls for I think it's a Picot cast off in the contrast color, but I decided not to do that because I do want to use the white for the other socks that I'm knitting, the Plaid Pocket socks. I haven't worked on those last week. I was still working on this pattern, but I want to attach the white yarn to the other socks, so I decided to just cast off with the blue yarn, and I really like the way this looks. I still haven't embroidered this little heart. I will decide whether I want to do that once I finish the ribbing on the socks, and then you'll see whether or not I've done that. Yeah, but really happy that there are no more stack stitches to be done. I really enjoyed doing them, and to just learn how that works and to see that it's possible. But as I said before, it's quite fiddly if you're knitting tightly. So the next time I do stack stitches, I'd rather do it on a project where I can knit more loosely. Yeah, so really happy this is done. Yeah, and that's all the socks for now. Then on to other projects out of sock yarn. I continued knitting on the little baby jacket by Stephanie Lotvin out of her book Knit Happy with Self-Striping Yarn, and this is looking more like a jacket now. I finished the back pieces. I haven't woven in any of the ends, so this is going, I will have one long sitting of weaving in ends, but that's the price you pay for getting such a sweet, funny little jacket. So this is the 3 needle bind off that I did on the outside of the jacket. And again, you can see there are different colors here than here, and different colors here than here. I really, really enjoy that. This is still folding over like crazy, but I hope once I've done the ribbing up there and down here and washed and blocked it, this will look better. I haven't looked for buttons yet, I just realized, so I will have to see if I have buttons that fit. Yeah, so that's a little baby jacket. Not a lot more to do. Then the garments I'm knitting for myself. I finished knitting the first stripe on my neon jacket, the party cardi. So as the blue stripe is finished, and I started the second color, which is this purple color, and I had to use my second mini skein of the blue for the last 2 rows, a little bit less than the last 2 rows, but that's okay. I had 2 of the minis, so I guess I will need 2 of the purple as well, because the stripes will be the same width. But I think for the other colors you use a little less, so maybe I'll be fine with just 1 of the minis, and I can use the other mini for something else. Yeah, looks a bit wonky with the short needle in it, but I am working on the front of the cardigan. So it's the like the collar part will just have very thin stripes, and then towards the bottom I'm knitting short rows so it gets wider, but then with the other colors I think I do decreases, something so it would be a rounded edge on the bottom. Difficult to explain. If you want to see what the jacket is supposed to look like, you can go to my Ravelry page, which is linked underneath the video, and there I link to the original pattern and you can have a look. And then we'll see whether my jacket will look the same, except for the completely different colors, of course. And then the other garment I'm knitting, I finished the ribbing on my Go Big or Go No pullover, and I added in the main color. That's all I managed to do. I'm supposed to knit 4 rounds of main color, and I just started the 4th round. So once this round's complete, I can add in the second contrast color and start knitting the little mushrooms, which reminds me, I've never done the leatherback jacquard technique to cope with long floats. And looking at the chart for the mushrooms, there are fairly long floats. And I was thinking I might try and do the technique. I've never done it before. And it sounds like a lot of work because you add stitches and you have to knit more stitches. But I am curious. I usually like trying out new techniques, and the mushroom chart is fairly short, and maybe I'll do that. It might mean it takes longer for me to start the color work because I will have to look it up and set it up and everything. But yeah, I would quite like to do that. Okay, so that's that with the sock yarn until later. And then I have, and my only new project for today is the gnome I'm knitting for June. So I'm taking part in Sierra Shall's Year of Gnomes, which means I try to knit a gnome every month, and then I can fill out the form on her website, and I can take part in a giveaway, draw something. But I don't have to win a prize. That's not why I'm doing it. It's just for the fun of it because I love gnomes. And usually I show it in the sock yarn section because so far I think I've knit, no, not all, but a lot of my gnomes out of sock yarn. But this time I wanted to do something a little different. And I'm not using sock yarn. I'm not using acrylic, which I have done before for gnomes. But I decided to do a cotton gnome. I've never done a cotton gnome before, and to make it even more interesting, I decided to use the glitter cotton. And I just realized I hadn't thought of that before, but it's the same yarn that's in the top. This is the gray, and the white that's in the top I will knit the beard with. So that's so funny. So the gnome will go with my crochet top. That's really funny. By the way, this is the yarn. I'm knitting it on a 3mm needle. The recommended needle for this yarn, I think, is a little smaller. They say 2.5 to 3.5, but I think with 2.5 I would have probably broken the needles. It would have been too tight. I think this is tight enough for the stuffing not to show. The pattern I'm knitting is the Not Just Another Gnome pattern. I think it was the Mystery Gnome number 6. But I'm not 100% sure about that. I knit that before, that pattern out of sock yarn. This time I'm knitting it out of the cotton. So we'll see how that comes along. The hat, I'm using the silver grey. For the body, I want to use the darker grey, and then the white for the beard. It's another neutral, but glittery little gnome. And I don't have a lot of time, so this gnome should be done next time I film, because then June will be over. So that's that. Then another cotton project. I continued knitting on the Vortex shawl. I did not do these 6 pattern repeats I wanted to do every week, but I did 3. So that's a lot better than nothing. And I said, if I knit on it, I'll show it to you. And last time I looked at the shawl myself, I noticed that this is less than a quarter of the stitches that I had when I started the edging, and I sort of tried it on and I really liked the way it looked, and I want to show that to you now. So what I did is I put the needle around my neck like so, and I can make sure I'm not losing any stitches, but just to give you a sense of how big the shawl is. So this should be the middle of the shawl, and it goes down. It doesn't come down to the floor, it doesn't come down to my feet completely, but it's really, really long. And it looks huge, and I think it looks beautiful, and I really can't wait to wear it. And that was a big boost of, what's the word? I don't want to say encouragement, but I felt motivated. That's the word. It really motivated me to get this done and to be able to finally wear the shawl after 9 years. It's time I got it done. Yeah, but still, it is quite a bit of work to do the knit it on edge. Just to quickly show that again. So this is the pattern that I'm knitting back and forth, and every 2 rows I eat up one of the shawl stitches, and I still have this many stitches to do. And so one of these repeats is 100 stitches, so that's 100 stitches. This is another 100 stitches, but this is less than 100 stitches. So it was 100 stitches over here, and I've already worked up these stitches, and then, oh, and I lost a stitch. I don't know when, because I've had this needle in for ages. I never put in a new needle or anything, but when I tried it on, I realized I dropped a stitch here, and I must have dropped it ages ago. So I put in a little stitch marker, and once I get to there, I can pick it up, and I just cast it off in pattern the same way I do with the other stitches. But I was quite shocked when I noticed that, and I'm quite happy it didn't go down further. If it had gotten down to the pattern down here, I mean, the good thing would have been it couldn't have gone any further, because there are lots of yarn overs here, and once you have a yarn over, the stitch can't drop below that, but it would have been a lot harder to pick it up. So I'm really happy it stopped falling up there. Yeah, so that's the Vortex shawl. I'm really, really motivated to get this done. Then I have my last cotton project for today is the Talavera blanket that I'm crocheting out of the Simply Crochet magazine. And this is, again, a crochet along where they split the pattern in, I think, 7 pieces. I think last time I said 6 pieces, but I think it's 7 pieces. And this is the first part of the crochet along. So this is the part of the pattern that was in the magazine 2 months ago. So there must have been, it's now June, May, April. So I think it started in the April issue, and this is what's in there. And this is the round part of the blanket. The blanket is going to be a square blanket, and the next part of the crochet along, this circle will be squared off, will be made into a square, and then from then on it'll just add to the square. Yeah, really like the way this looks. I'm happy with my color choice and can't wait to continue crocheting. So I have to do last month and this month. I'm pretty sure I won't finish that before the next issue is released, but that's okay. I'll just work as quickly as I can. So that was the last crochet project, but I have the last cotton project, but I have another crochet project. But that now we're back to sock yarn. That's the 6-ply opal sock yarn, and the project is my dinosaur blanket. Last week I didn't show it to you because I'd only crocheted 2 rows. Last week I added some more. I forgot to pay attention where I started, so I can't tell you how many rows I crocheted, but I know it was a few. And what I can tell you is I finished the first arm. So I know this was started when I showed it to you last time, but it wasn't done. Now the first hand or arm is finished. I think this is the tail, and I think this is like the second arm or hand. And then here we'll get the huge big head. As this is a Tyrannosaurus Rex, he has a fairly big head. So that's the next bit to come. So really happy with how that looks. And I enjoy crocheting on it. I have to hold it a bit to the side usually now because it's quite warm underneath the blanket, but I don't mind. Yeah, the next project is the High Sierra Shawl that I started last week. Not last week, but I showed it as a new project last week. That's what I'm trying to say. And I continued working on that. And this is what it looks like at the moment. So last week I showed you this first triangle. that was knit from the tip upwards, and then there's a cast off, there's a reverse stockinette I-cord cast off, was the first time I did that. And then I picked up stitches around the two short sides of the triangle, and then I started knitting garter stitch, and I added in the second color, and I'm now knitting those two color stripes, that's it. And I have to knit these are 5 black stripes now, so I have to knit another 3, and then the next lace pattern will be added. And last time I couldn't tell you what yarn it is, but I found my ball band, this is the ball band of the black yarn. So this is Juniper Moon Farm. The yarn's called Findley, and as I said last time, this is 50% wool and 50% silk. It runs 730 meters for 100 grams, and yeah, it's very beautiful. It's so soft. I love knitting it, and I look forward to wearing it. Yeah, so that's really, really nice. Yeah, so that's what I managed on that shawl. And that brings me to the knit along. I finally started the discussion thread in the Ravelry group. In case you want to join, you can add something if you want to start an English speaking discussion thread. You can either just do it or let me know and I can do that. But you can join the German discussion thread and write in English, that's fine too. So whatever you like to do. And we are knitting socks, basically any size, but the main focus for me is to do small socks. So that was the first pair that I finished. And last week I knit the second sock to this pair. So this is the one that I knit during my holiday, and this is the one I knit last week. And as you can see, the colors come out completely different, which in a mini skein I can't really do anything about. But I love having socks that are this different. And I was just about to weave in the end when I thought, no, I'll leave it hanging because this is all that I had left from the mini skein. I didn't cut off anything. I did the knitted on cast on, so to make sure I didn't waste any yarn with the long tail cast on, and it's almost perfectly one skein. But that reminds me, there's one more thing I wanted to say about the cast on. When I started knitting this, I felt that the cast on felt a bit weird or seemed different. And then I looked at the other sock and I realized it does look different. And then I remembered in the video where I show how to knit these socks, I did the knitted on cast on by knitting in between the stitches. And this is what the cast on looks like. And I said in the video that it's possible to go into the stitch instead of in between the stitches, but I didn't quite know what the difference was. Now I know. So with this one, I knitted into the stitches because I wasn't paying attention. I was doing something else at the same time, I guess. But by the time I noticed that I did the cast on differently, I'd already knitted several rounds and I just didn't want to go back and undo the whole knitting that I had done. And I thought it's quite interesting to be able to show what the difference is, and the baby who's going to wear the socks won't mind. But as you can see, this is a bit looser, so if you want a loose cast on, it's good to go into the stitches. And this is a bit neater, I would say. It's not tight, so it's still quite flexible. Let's see if there's a difference. Yeah, so going into the stitches is even more flexible, but the other one is quite flexible. So it's flexible enough to be the top of a sock, and I think it looks a bit nicer, which is why I prefer to do that cast on if I think about it. But so if you need a cast on that's really, really flexible, then go into the stitches and you'll get this extremely flexible cast on that still looks nice. Even if I prefer the look of this. It's not ugly, it's not bad. And now I have a pair of socks that shows the difference. Yeah, so the next tiny sock I'm going to knit will be the second sock to this one, using this little 10-gram mini by Opal. So that's the next. And then after that, I can start a new pair, because then I've knitted the second sock to all the single ones that I had. And another something I wanted to say is I checked the this table where you can check the number of stitches you're supposed to do for different sizes and the foot length and everything. And this sock, according to that table, is the smallest size that the table gives. So that's a European size 18-19. And I think that babies or children will probably wear this size round about 9 to 12 months. Depending on the child, of course, but so this is probably the age that kids could wear these socks. And the number of stitches, 40 stitches, is also the smallest size that the table gives. Yeah, so I think that's quite good. So if there's a baby around somewhere that age, I might give some of the socks away. Yeah, so that's almost everything I knit and crocheted last week. I did a few things behind the scenes. That's for an upcoming special that I'm planning, but I'll talk more about it nearer the time. Yeah, but most of what I've done you've seen. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!